Welcome back, learners. Today we're diving deep into something we all experience and yet often misunderstand.
Why?
Exactly. Tears, we're going to explore all those times when you feel those welling up, but from a completely different perspective.
Right, not the usual, oh, don't cry sort of thing.
Nope, we're going way beyond that. Our guide for this deep dive is The Strength in Our Tears, a fascinating book by James Crowder.
Really challenges those common perceptions we have about crying.
Big time. So get ready, learner. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to completely transform how you view crying, those moments when tears just flow.
And trust me, this isn't about wallowing in sadness or anything like that.
Quite the opposite, actually.
It's about understanding crying as this powerful, actually really essential part of both your resilience, your ability to bounce back from tough times, and your overall well-being.
Yep. We're talking mind, body, and even your connections with other people.
We're going to unpack the different types of tears, delve into their unique chemical makeup,
Oh, yeah. It's way more complex than just salty water.
and then explore the truly fascinating ways crying impacts you on so many levels.
Buckle up, learner, because this is going to be eye-opening.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How deeply ingrained it is in us to view crying as a negative.
Oh, for sure. It's like it's wired into us from childhood.
Exactly. Think about it. Your own reactions, learner. When you see someone crying, what's that immediate feeling?
Yeah, like there's a problem. Like you need to fix something.
We get uncomfortable, don't we? And it's not just us, it's society too. All those messages we've been bombarded with since we were kids.
Oh, yeah, don't be a crybaby, toughen up, all that stuff.
It's like this constant pressure to suppress those tears, be strong, keep it all inside.
Like a stiff upper lip or something. Right?
Exactly. But, and this is where Grouder throws a real curveball, what if that whole idea that crying equals weakness is actually completely backwards?
Like what if it's the opposite?
Exactly. This is the big question that he explores in The Strength in Our Tears, and it's a real game changer. What if, instead of weakness, tears actually reflect our inherent strength?
It's our ability to cope?
Yeah, and not just that. What if they're actually really sophisticated biological mechanisms, these intricate processes that are designed to help us navigate those complex emotions we all experience?
Like sadness, sure, but also all the other big ones.
Precisely. And, crucially, what if tears are actually essential tools for building deeper, more meaningful connections with the people around us?
It's like flipping the script completely.
It really is. So let's start by breaking down those tears themselves. The science behind them is surprisingly fascinating. Grouder starts with the most basic type, basal tears.
Basal tears. Those are like the unsung heroes of healthy eyes, right?
Truly. You know how your eyes always feel comfortable even though you blink all the time? That's basal tears at work.
Oh, okay, so they're constantly there.
24/7. It's like this microscopic film, 3 layers thick, constantly coating your eyes. Every time you blink, boom, basal tears preventing friction, keeping everything lubricated.
No wonder my contacts don't scratch my eyeballs.
Exactly. Without those basal tears, blinking would be so uncomfortable. Learner, imagine sandpaper on your eyeball.
Ouch. No thanks.
Yeah. But basal tears do way more than just lubrication. They're packed with this powerful enzyme called lysozyme, which is a natural antibacterial. So they're like a frontline defense against infections.
So like a constant eye wash, keeping those germs at bay.
Precisely. And that's not all. Remember the cornea? That clear front part of your eye?
Yeah, the one that lets light in.
Right. It doesn't have its own blood supply, so guess what brings it? Oxygen and nutrients.
Basal tears.
You got it. Those amazing little multitaskers are nourishing the cornea, ensuring clear vision, keeping everything running smoothly.
And we're talking a lot of these tears, right?
Oh, yeah. The average person produces, get this, almost a gram of basal tears every single day.
Wow. So it's like this constant silent process, keeping our eyes healthy and functioning. Amazing. All right. So those are the everyday maintenance crew, the basal tears. But what about when something actually gets in your eye?
Then the cavalry arrives.
Those are reflex tears, right? Like when you're chopping onion.
That's the classic example. But it could be smoke, dust, anything irritating. Your eyes are like, nope, not having it.
So it's like a rapid response system.
Precisely. Those sensory nerves in your eyes, they send an SOS straight to the brain.
Danger, danger.
And the brain's like, get those lacrimal glands pumping. So, boom, a flood of tears way bigger than the basal ones.
Like an emergency sprinkler system?
Exactly. The main goal here is to flush out that irritant as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Get that thing out of there. Okay, so we've got the everyday tears, the emergency tears. Now let's talk about the tears we usually think of when we hear crying.
The emotional ones.
Right, the ones that come with those big feelings.
Groder sometimes calls them psychic tears. They're triggered by a whole range of emotions.
Not just sadness, right?
Nope. Joy, relief, anger, frustration, even awe, empathy. The whole spectrum.
Wow, so anytime things get really intense.
Exactly. It all starts in the brain, specifically the limbic system. That's the control center for our emotions, memory, all that good stuff.
Okay, so it's not just our tear ducts going rogue.
Not at all. It's a complex interplay of brain signals and hormones. The hypothalamus, this little part of the brain, it's like the messenger. When things reach a certain emotional level, it sends a signal through the autonomic nervous system to those lacrimal glands.
And boom, the waterworks.
Exactly. But here's where things get even more interesting. Research suggests that these emotional tears, they're chemically different from the other types.
Really? So there's more to it than just water and salt.
Oh, much more. This is where the science gets truly fascinating.
I love this part. Tell me more.
Back in the 80s, this researcher, Dr. William Frey, he did some groundbreaking work on this.
Okay, so what did he do?
He compared tears from people crying because of onions, those reflex tears, with tears from people watching sad movies. So genuine emotional tears.
Clever way to get people crying on demand.
Right. And what he found was amazing. The emotional tears, they had significantly higher levels of certain substances, especially proteins, compared to those reflex tears.
So they weren't just the same tears with a different trigger. They were literally different.
Exactly. That's why emotional crying feels so different.
Makes sense. So what are these special ingredients in emotional tears?
Well, one of the biggest findings was stress hormones, specifically something called adrenocorticotropic hormone, or ACTH.
Okay, I've heard of that. It's involved in our stress response.
Exactly. It triggers the release of cortisol, that main stress hormone. So the theory is that crying might actually help us get rid of excess stress chemicals.
Like a natural detox.
That's the idea. It's like our bodies are literally shedding stress through our tears.
Wow. So not just metaphorically, but literally crying it out.
Pretty cool, right? And they also found higher levels of prolactin in emotional tears.
Now, isn't that the hormone involved in milk production?
Yeah, but it's also influenced by stress and emotions. And interestingly, it's generally higher in women than men.
Could that explain why women tend to cry more often?
It might be one piece of the puzzle. We know there's both biological and social factors at play.
But still fascinating to think that those differences could be partly hormonal. So stress hormones, prolactin, anything else in this emotional cocktail.
You bet. They also found natural painkillers in emotional tears, specifically something called leucine enkephalin, which is a type of endorphin.
Ah, endorphins. Those are those feel-good chemicals, right?
Yeah, they help reduce pain and boost mood. That might be why we often feel better, even a bit euphoric sometimes after a good cry.
Like a natural high. Okay, so we've got stress hormones being flushed out, endorphins kicking in. Sounds like a pretty good system.
Right. And on top of all that, they found higher levels of lysozyme, albumin, even some key electrolytes like potassium and manganese in emotional tears.
So it's this complex mix of stuff.
Yeah.
Clearly, emotional tears aren't just some random overflow from the eyes.
Exactly. They have their own unique composition and seem to play a specific role in our emotional response.
Fascinating. Now, Grouder does mention this whole detox idea, but he also emphasizes that more research is needed, right?
Oh, definitely. It's a compelling theory, but we need more data to see how significant that detox effect really is. It's not like one good cry will completely rebalance your hormones.
Still, it's pretty amazing to think that our tears might literally be carrying away some of that stress.
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked about the chemistry of tears, but let's get into the actual act of crying.
Right. How does that affect us?
Like, why do we often feel calmer after we cry, even if we're still sad about whatever made us cry?
Well, Grouder describes it as a physiological reset. It's all about how crying interacts with our nervous system. Remember those two branches, sympathetic and parasympathetic.
Yeah, the gas pedal and the brake.
Perfect analogy. So when we're stressed or upset, the sympathetic nervous system kicks in. That's the fight or flight response.
Heart racing, palms sweating, that feeling.
Exactly. But crying, especially sobbing, seems to activate the parasympathetic system. That's the rest and digest response, the one that calms us down.
So it's like hitting the brakes on that stress response.
Exactly. Think about what happens when you sob. You take those big, deep breaths, and then you have those long exhales.
Yeah, often with a lot of sound effects.
All right. That breathing pattern, especially the prolonged exhale, it stimulates the vagus nerve.
Now, the vagus nerve, that's a big player in the parasympathetic system, right?
Major player. Stimulating it has a calming effect, slowing the heart rate, easing tension.
So sobbing is like a natural vagus nerve massage.
In a way, yes.
I mean,
And there's also the physical release. All that muscle tension we hold when we're stressed can be released through sobbing.
like shaking it off.
Kinda.
Yeah.
And then we have those lovely endorphins we talked about. They add to that sense of calm and well-being.
So it's like a three-pronged attack on stress. The breathing, the muscle release, and the endorphins.
And it's not just a coincidence. Grauder points out that babies cry to regulate their systems too. It's an innate mechanism we have for restoring balance.
Makes sense. So we're not weak for crying. We're actually tapping in to a powerful self-soothing tool.
Exactly. And by doing so, we're potentially preventing the long-term damage that chronic stress can cause.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about the psychological power of crying. Grauer makes a strong case for how it helps us process emotions and unburden ourselves.
Right. It's about emotional expression and release.
It's like sometimes words just aren't enough.
Totally. Especially when those feelings are really intense, really complex, tears can express what we can't put into words.
They're like this raw, unfiltered communication from our deepest selves.
Exactly. It's acknowledging and validating our inner experience, letting those feelings out instead of bottling them up.
And that validation is important, right? It's
Right.
like saying, yeah, these feelings are real and it's okay to feel them.
Totally. Now, when it comes to really big life events like grief or trauma, tears are even more crucial.
It's like they're a natural part of the healing process.
Exactly. They help us acknowledge the pain, release some of that emotional energy, process the experience over time.
Like those waves of grief, you can't just stop them from coming.
Right. And trying to hold back those tears, it can actually hinder healing. It's like trying to dam a river. Eventually, it'll overflow.
It's got to go somewhere. Grauder also talks about how crying can help us reduce that emotional baggage we all carry around.
Yeah, all those unexpressed emotions, they can weigh us down, lead to stress, anxiety, even burnout.
Like a pressure cooker building up steam.
Exactly. Crying provides a release valve, lets some of that pressure out before it explodes.
And I know I always feel more clear-headed after a good cry.
Right. It's like the emotional fog lifts and you can think straight again.
Makes sense, since we know crying triggers that calming response in our bodies.
Exactly. It lowers that emotional intensity, giving you space to think more rationally.
Okay, so crying is this amazing tool for processing emotions, releasing stress, gaining clarity. But Grauder goes even further, linking it to authenticity and self-acceptance.
Absolutely. Think about it. In a world that often tells us to hide our emotions, to be tough all the time, allowing ourselves to cry is a radical act of honesty.
Like saying, hey, this is me, this is how I feel, take it or leave it.
Exactly. It's validating those feelings, embracing our vulnerability instead of trying to be something we're not.
And that authenticity, that's a key part of building a strong sense of self.
Absolutely. It's about integrating all parts of ourselves, the good, the bad, the messy. Crying is a part of that.
It's like saying, I'm human, and it's okay to be fully human, tears and all.
Now, let's talk about the social side of crying. Grauder really beautifully describes tears as these silent signals that can connect us in really profound ways.
Because even if you don't know why someone's crying, you know something's up, right?
Exactly. It's a universal signal of vulnerability. It instantly communicates, I'm hurting, I need support.
And it triggers empathy in the people who see it.
Exactly. When we see someone crying, it activates those empathy circuits in our brains, makes us want to comfort, listen, help.
It's like a call for connection. And that vulnerability, when it's met with compassion, can actually strengthen relationship.
Oh, yeah. Think about it. Allowing someone to see you cry, that takes trust. And when that trust is met with empathy, it deepens the bond between you.
Makes sense. Those shared emotional moments, they create intimacy. Grauder also mentions how tears can de-escalate conflict or reduce aggression.
It's an interesting idea. It's like those tears are saying, I'm not a threat, I need help.
And that can disarm people, maybe even trigger a protective instinct.
Maybe. It's not always the case, of course. But it highlights how powerful tears are as a form of nonverbal communication.
They add this layer of depth and authenticity that words sometimes can't capture. Okay, so we usually associate crying with sadness, but Grauder expands that view.
Oh, yeah. Tears come with all sorts of emotions.
Like tears of joy. Why do we cry when we're happy? It seems counterintuitive.
Well, those super intense positive emotions, they can overwhelm us just like negative ones. Crying might be a way of regulating that overload.
Like a release valve for good feelings.
Exactly. It can also express deep gratitude or the relief of tension after a long struggle.
Makes sense. Then there are tears of frustration, anger, those times when you're not sad, but just overwhelmed.
Yeah, those often come when we feel helpless, powerless to change a situation. It's like our emotions are overflowing and tears are the only way out.
And then those tears of relief after a period of stress or anxiety finally ends.
Ah, those are the best. It's like your whole body is exhaling, letting go of all that tension. So, crying isn't just about one emotion, it's about reaching a certain intensity level, whether it's positive or negative.
Like a pressure gauge. When it hits a certain point, the tears flow.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about society and those expectations around crying. Grouder dives into how cultural norms and gender roles really influence how we view tears.
And starts early, right? All those messages we get as kids.
Yeah. Boys especially are often told, big boys don't cry, man up, all that stuff. It's like they're taught to suppress their emotions.
And then in the workplace, it's often seen as unprofessional to show emotion.
Right, got to keep that stiff upper lip. And the media often reinforces these stereotypes too.
It's interesting, though, how women generally report crying more often than men.
Yeah, and there are likely multiple reasons for that. Some research suggests hormonal differences might play a role, but societal expectations definitely have a huge impact.
Like, it's more acceptable for women to cry, so they're less likely to hold back.
Exactly. And cultural norms around crying vary wildly across the globe.
What's normal in one culture might be totally taboo in another.
Totally. But Grouder's point is that suppressing tears, regardless of the reason, comes at a cost.
Like, it's not healthy to constantly bottle up those emotions.
Exactly. It can lead to increased stress, difficulty processing those emotions, strained relationships, and even a loss of authenticity.
Like, we're trying to be someone we're not. So it's time to redefine what strength really means.
Right. It's not about never crying. It's about having the courage to be vulnerable.
Because that vulnerability, that's where true strength lies.
Exactly. Think about it. It takes courage to feel those emotions fully, to let the tears flow, to be seen in that raw, vulnerable state.
Especially in a world that often tells us to numb out, to put on a brave face.
And true strength isn't about denying those parts of ourselves. It's about integrating them, embracing the whole package. Crying is a part of that.
And resilience, it's not about being unbreakable. It's about bending, adapting, recovering. And crying can be a crucial part of that process.
Absolutely. It releases tension, helps us process, and ultimately allows us to bounce back stronger.
So it's not weak to cry. It's actually a sign of strength, a way of honoring our authentic selves.
Now, Grouder goes even deeper. He suggests that we can see our tears not just as a release, but as teachers.
Like they have something to tell us.
Exactly. Instead of judging ourselves for crying, we can approach those tears with curiosity. They can be signals, alerting us to important things.
Like what?
Unmet needs, feelings of overwhelm, maybe even values that are being challenged, or underlying issues we haven't dealt with.
So instead of saying, ugh, why am I crying again?
Mm.
We can ask, what's this telling me?
Exactly. What's the emotion behind these tears? What triggered them? What need am I feeling right now?
And by paying attention to those signals, we can learn about ourselves, maybe even start making changes to align our lives with our true selves.
That's the power of those tears. And while they're valuable, it's also important to recognize when crying becomes excessive or uncontrollable. That might be a sign to seek professional support.
So it's about finding that balance,
Yeah.
honoring those tears, listening to what they're telling us, but also knowing when we need extra help.
Exactly. Now let's wrap up by talking about how we can integrate this new understanding of crying into our lives.
Yeah, because knowledge is great, but it's the action that really matters.
Totally. So first things first, challenge those ingrained stigmas about crying. Replace those negative beliefs with a more compassionate understanding. Like actively remind yourself that crying is okay. It's healthy. It's human. Exactly. And give yourself permission to cry. Create safe spaces, both internally and in your environment, where you feel comfortable letting those tears flow without judgment.
Whether you're alone or with people you trust.
Exactly. Listen to your body, acknowledge those feelings, and don't try to force them down. And when others cry, be empathetic. Offer support, validation. Just be present with them.
Don't try to fix it or tell them to stop.
Right. Just be there for them and start thinking of crying as a valuable tool in your resilience toolkit, just like exercise or meditation.
It's a natural way to process, release, and ultimately become stronger.
And most importantly, live authentically. Embrace the full range of your emotions, tears and all. That's how you live a truly meaningful life.
So learners, as we wrap up this deep dive into the strength in our tears, hopefully you've seen just how powerful and essential crying truly is.
It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of courage, resilience, and a deep connection to yourself and others.
Now, for our final thought, consider this. What if we, as a society, fully embraced the strength and wisdom in our tears? What if we stopped seeing crying as something to hide or be ashamed of?
How might that change our relationships, our communities, our individual well-being?
It's a big question, but it's worth pondering. And on a personal level, what small step can you take today to shift your own perspective on tears?
Whether it's allowing yourself to cry more freely or responding with more empathy when someone else cries.
Every little change makes a difference. So keep learning, keep exploring, and keep embracing those powerful tears.
They have a lot to teach us.
Until next time, learners, keep diving deep.